Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Chat Like a Native. You know, we always talk about sounding more natural when you speak English, right? And, well, today we're going to be looking at something that might sound a little bit weird.
Yeah.
Being too polite can sometimes actually make you sound less confident or even like you don't really mean what you're saying.
Exactly.
So we've got a really interesting deep dive today all about how to make requests in English
Right.
that are both polite but also assertive and clear.
Yeah, so you can get your point across and, sound really natural while you're doing it.
Exactly like a native speaker.
That's it.
So, we've all learned these like super formal phrases, right?
Yeah.
Like, would you mind terribly if?
Oh, yeah.
Or, I was wondering if you could possibly.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
But, in everyday conversation, native speakers often value being more direct.
Right.
And actually, sometimes using all that really elaborate phrasing can make you sound less confident.
Yeah.
Or even like you're not really being sincere.
Yeah, you're kind of dancing around what you want to say.
Right.
Instead of just coming out and saying it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're apologizing for even asking.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm so sorry to even bother you with this, but.
Right.
And, native speakers just don't really talk like that.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, I just need a pen. Can I borrow a pen?
Would you possibly be able to lend me a pen if it's not too much trouble?
Right.
Like, come on, get to the point.
Yeah, exactly. So how do we kind of navigate this then?
Right.
What's the secret sauce to finding that sweet spot?
Well, you still need to know the basics, of course.
Right.
You can't just go around being rude to everyone. So things like using those modal verbs like can, could, would, or softening phrases like would you mind?
Yeah.
Is it okay if,
Yeah.
all the kind of standard polite phrases, those are important.
Sure.
You need to know those.
Okay, so we need to know the basic notes, so to speak.
Right.
But then there's that next level, right? How do we go from just playing the scales to actually making music?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not just what you say, but how you say it.
Ooh.
Your tone of voice matters a lot.
Right.
If you're smiling, if you're using friendly body language, the whole context of the situation, all of these things play a huge role in how your request is perceived.
So it's like I can say, can I borrow a pen with a flat, hesitant tone? Or I can say it with a friendly smile and a confident voice.
Exactly.
And the words are the same.
Yeah.
But the message is totally different.
Completely different, yeah.
Wow.
And here's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
The level of directness that's considered appropriate can actually change depending on the culture.
Oh, interesting.
So in English-speaking cultures, just saying something like, could you please pass the salt?
Right.
At the dinner table, that's totally fine. But in some other cultures, that might be considered a bit too blunt or too direct.
Huh. I never really thought about that.
Yeah.
So I guess as English learners, we need to be aware not only of the grammar rules, but also of these kind of subtle cultural cues, right?
Exactly. And the best way to really get a feel for that is just to immerse yourself in the language as much as possible.
Right.
Watch movies, listen to podcasts.
Yeah.
Even just, eavesdrop on people's conversations
Oh,
out in public.
yeah, I like it.
But yeah, just pay attention to how native speakers actually interact in different situations.
So it's almost like learning by osmosis.
Yeah.
Right? Just like absorbing as much real-life English as possible.
Exactly.
And then those nuances will kind of start to make more sense.
That's the best way to learn it, yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about the theory, but let's get down to brass tacks now.
Okay.
What are some concrete strategies that our listeners can use to actually make requests that are both polite and assertive?
Yeah, because I think a lot of people, they understand the idea,
Right.
but they're not really sure how to put it into practice.
Right, exactly.
So let's talk about some practical tips.
Awesome. I'm excited.
Yeah. Okay, so one really effective strategy is to use those polite modals like we talked about, could, would, can,
Right.
but use them confidently without adding a bunch of extra qualifiers. Instead of saying, I was just hoping that you might be able to help me,
Right.
you could just say, could you help me?
So it's about getting to the point.
Exactly. Be clear about what you need.
Yeah.
Don't beat around the bush.
Right.
And even a direct request like that can sound totally polite if you just use a friendly tone of voice.
Right.
And, smile.
That's so true. I think sometimes we get so focused on the words that we forget about all that nonverbal communication.
Totally.
Like a smile can really go a long way
It can.
in making you sound approachable and sincere.
It really can.
Okay, so that's a great tip. What else?
All right, here's another tip that might surprise you.
Okay.
Practice saying no.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Saying no? We're talking about making requests.
I know.
Not refusing them.
Right, but being able to say no gracefully is actually a key part of becoming more assertive.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So think about it like this. If you're terrified of being rejected,
Yeah.
you're more likely to kind of overhedge your requests and sound less confident
Oh, that's interesting.
because you're so worried about imposing or being a burden.
Right.
That you end up kind of weakening your message.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
So if you're comfortable with the idea that someone might say no, you'll be more likely to just come out and say what you need directly.
It takes the pressure off.
Exactly.
Because you're not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
Like if they say no, it's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And honestly, most of the time, people are happy to help
yeah.
if you just ask politely and confidently.
That's good to hear.
So it's all about finding that balance,
Right.
being respectful, but also being clear about what you need.
I love that. And something else I was thinking about, it's like, it seems like different situations would call for different levels of formality.
Oh, for sure.
Like if you're asking your boss for a raise,
Yeah.
you're probably going to use a little more formal language
Right.
than if you're just asking a friend to pass the salsa.
Exactly. Context is everything.
So how do we know how formal to be?
Well, it's all about paying attention to your surroundings,
Yeah.
Who are you talking to?
Right.
What's the situation?
Right.
What's the overall tone?
So just be mindful.
Exactly. Be present in the moment.
And I guess the more we immerse ourselves in like real life English,
Right.
the better we'll get at kind of picking up on all those social cues.
That's the best way to learn.
Right.
Just by observing and doing.
Okay. Awesome.
And don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Oh, that's so important.
Everyone makes mistakes. It's part of the learning process.
Especially when you're learning a language.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think a lot of us get so caught up in trying to be perfect
Mm-hmm.
that we end up like not even wanting to speak at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
But you have to just put yourself out there and
Exactly.
make those mistakes.
You're not going to learn if you don't make mistakes.
I learn from them.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's say you're in a situation where you need to make a request.
Okay.
How can you actually apply all this stuff
Right.
to sound more natural and confident?
So let's imagine you're at work and you need to ask a colleague to send you a report.
Yeah.
Instead of saying something like, I was wondering if it wouldn't be too much trouble for you to send me that report. You could just say, could you send me the report by Friday?
So much simpler.
Right. It's clear, it's polite.
It gets the job done.
Yeah, that first version is a classic example of overhedging.
Right.
Like you're just kind of like apologizing for even asking.
It's a mouthful, too.
Yeah, and it's probably just going to confuse your colleague.
Right.
Like, what are you even trying to say?
Okay, so let's try another scenario.
Okay.
You're at a restaurant and you need to ask for the check.
All right, so this is one that I know a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah. How do you politely signal to the waiter
Right.
that you're ready to pay?
Like instead of saying, excuse me, if you wouldn't mind terribly, would it be possible for me to get the check?
Yeah, no one wants to hear that.
Just say, could we have the check, please?
So much better.
Right.
It's polite. It's clear.
And it doesn't sound like you're reciting Shakespeare.
Exactly.
Waiter will thank you for it.
So I'm sensing a pattern here.
Yeah.
We're using those polite modals,
Mhm.
could, would, can,
Yeah.
but we're not adding all the extra bells and whistles.
Right.
Just keep it nice and straightforward.
Exactly. Simple and to the point.
And use that friendly tone of voice.
Yes. And a smile.
And a smile.
It's like the secret weapon.
It really is.
Yeah.
Awesome. This is so helpful.
Good. I'm glad.
I can already feel my English getting better.
That's great to hear.
So any other tips for our listeners
Yeah.
who are eager to level up their English and, really chat like a native?
I think one of the best things you can do is just try to use these tips, in your everyday life.
Yeah.
Like little by little,
Right.
Instead of just thinking about it, actually put it into practice. So next time you order a coffee,
Right.
ask a coworker for help, whatever it is, just make that conscious effort to use what we've talked about.
So it's like, don't wait until you feel perfectly ready. Just kind of jump in and do it.
Yeah, exactly. Learn by doing.
And, something I was thinking about is like, it seems like being assertive in English isn't just about the words you use. It's also about like your mindset.
Oh, absolutely.
Being comfortable with maybe hearing no.
Right.
can actually help you sound more confident.
It's a really important point because I think a lot of people, they're so afraid of being rejected that they end up not really saying what they want.
Right, they're kind of holding back.
Exactly.
And so they don't actually get their needs met.
Right, and if you can shift your perspective and realize that, no, it's not a personal attack.
It's just information.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes by being direct, you might even get a yes.
Right.
That you wouldn't have gotten otherwise.
That's so true.
Yeah.
So it's all about finding that balance.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Being respectful of others, but also, making sure that you get your needs met.
Absolutely. Standing up for yourself.
Well, I think this has been a really amazing deep dive.
Yeah, it's been fun.
I feel like I've learned a lot.
Me too.
And
yeah.
So any final thoughts for our listeners out there?
Yeah, I would just say, remember that fluency is a journey.
Ooh, I like that.
Not a destination.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to, make mistakes, experiment, have fun with it.
Yeah, learning English should be enjoyable.
Exactly.
It shouldn't feel like a chore.
It should be an adventure.
Absolutely.
Ah.
Well said.
Thanks.
I think that's a perfect note to end on.
I think so too.
So a huge thank you to everyone for joining us today on Chat Like a Native.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.